Hello and welcome back to Content and Conversations Live, where we are going to talk about sales and marketing. What is the difference? How do we get them to work together? And really, how do they work together in a cohesive way inside of both a small business and a larger business? So, I'm your host, Brian Downey. I am very excited to be here with you today. And when this idea came through of like, oh my gosh, this is going to be such a good conversation. About kind of these two things because I feel like this is really a sticking point for a lot of entrepreneurs, whether you are, making a few $1,000s a month or you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. There's still some lack of clarity about like what is the role that sales should be playing, what is the role that marketing is playing, and how do I make sure that they play together so that we get the ultimate results, which is more clients, more revenue, more sales, right? So what is the difference between sales and marketing? That's where we really need to start. So the way that I've always really defined the difference between the two mediums, if you will, is marketing is a one to many, right? It is a one to many. It's standing there with your megaphone, telling people, inviting people in, right? It's calling in the masses, and not the masses as in like anybody is everybody, but like everybody who fits the criteria of the ideal client of the problem that you solve, right? So marketing is speaking to all of them. Come on in, right? Sales is more that one-to-one conversation, that deeper relationship, that more actually, how do we go from stranger to somebody who's actually willing to enroll and pay for your products and services? So marketing is responsible for the top of the funnel and sales is responsible for the bottom of the funnel, right? In most businesses. So, the top two stages of like creating interest, pulling people in, and then sales job is ultimately to convert them. So something that you can kind of see in some parallels for you is marketing is more of a marathon, right? It is something we're doing day in and day out and day in and day out. Whereas our intention in sales is once we get somebody who is qualified and interested, that we're now sprinting across the finish line. Right. So marketing is a marathon. It's going on all the time. Slow and steady wins the race, consistent, one foot in front of the other. Right. And sales is okay, cool. I now have a warm lead. I have a prospect who is interested. I have somebody who is qualified. I have somebody who meets the criteria of the client. So now I'm going to take that person and we're going to, get there as quickly as possible because they're interested and the timing is right. Right. So to me, that is the difference between sales and marketing. So one to many, one to one, marathon versus sprint. Where most companies get this wrong, in my opinion and in my experience, is that um is that they're two different people, right? Like the person who is running marathons is not the same person who is sprinting. And oftentimes inside of companies, we want one person, maybe it's a social media manager, maybe it's a social seller, maybe it's a marketing agency, maybe it's a Facebook ads manager, right? We want one person to wear both of those hats. And traditionally those skill sets are pretty different. And this is why in the corporate world, there are marketing departments and there's sales departments. And I understand that we're small businesses and I understand that not everybody has the budget for both. But even if you had one person doing both, understanding the differences in their nuances, in those skills, in those responsibilities, I think is really, really important. So if you happen to find a unicorn who can do both, amazing. But if you can't find that unicorn, that's why, right? Because, the marathoner and the sprinter are not the same person. They're not the same skill set. They're not the same mindset. They're not motivated by the same things, right? They train differently. They show up differently. And so that's why most companies struggle with sales and marketing is they'll have a killer marketer, but then they can't close. Or they'll have a really amazing salesperson, right? But then the marketing can't keep the funnel full enough for the salesperson to be as fruitful as they could be, right? And so that is really what I think is causing a lot of challenges inside of small businesses is their sales and marketing, is they're trying to solve two problems with one person or two problems with one solution. And that can be challenging if your solution doesn't have both. As an agency, we have both, right? That is what I think makes us different as an agency. What I think makes my skill set different as just because I've been in sales my entire career, but I've been selling marketing. So I can do both. I can run the marathon and I can sprint, right? I can generate the leads and I can close. That's my experience. But most people, that's not their experience. And so oftentimes as small businesses, we're hiring the social media manager, we're hiring the marketing agency, we're hiring the Facebook ads manager, we're hiring the copywriter, we're hiring the social seller, we're hiring all these people, and we can't figure out why we are not closing more business. And it's because there is a fracture in the entire system, right? The system has to work together, right? The marathoner has to hand off to the sprinter and the sprinter back to the marathoner, right? I'm going to stick with my track references today, right? We're running a relay, but when we hire a bunch of different people and we put them in a bunch of different places and it's not cohesive and it doesn't work together, right? It doesn't work together in any way. it's not going to get you the result that you desire. So how do we get them to work together? What do I need to do? Right? You're like, okay, cool, Ryan, I get it. You've belabored this point enough. Tell me what to fix it. So the first thing is we need to align the strategy. In your business, there needs to be a marketing strategy. How do we get people's attention? And then there needs to be a sales strategy. How do we convert them? And those strategies have to be aligned, right? So let me give you an example. If you are somebody who doesn't like taking sales calls in your business, right? And you're the person who's still wearing the sales hat in the business, cool, right? But if the marketing strategy is inviting people to book sales calls and you don't want to take the sales calls, there's a lack of alignment, right? We're out of alignment at that point in time. And when we're out of alignment, we're not going to perform, right? Or we have marketing who is, busting their butt to generate these leads and do these things, but they're not talking to the right person. So when sales does get on the call, they're not converting, right? So again, there's a lack of alignment in strategy. There's lack of alignment in who are we talking to? What do we want to happen here? What does success look like? And so when there is a lack of alignment, again, we all know that we're not going to get results. So if you are the business owner who is driving sales and marketing strategy in your business, I really want to encourage you to think about, what is my marketing strategy? What is my sales strategy? And are they cohesive? Are they aligned? Are they moving people through the funnel, from the top of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel, in an aligned way, in a way that makes sense? Because if we're pulling the wrong people into the top of the funnel, we're not going to get the right people out of the bottom, right? Or if we're pulling them into the top of the funnel and we're giving them a call to action that isn't aligned with the bottom part of the funnel, we're dead in the water, right? So top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, they have to be aligned. They have to work together. It has to be cohesive. There has to be a step-by-step plan and strategy for that to be effective. Okay. The second thing that we have to do is we have to tie the goals together. We have to tie the goals together. And this is probably talking to those of you that maybe have a little bit bigger teams, or maybe have hired some contractors, or have some people in the past, right? We have to tie sales and marketing's goals together. So, marketing only wins if sales wins, and sales only wins if marketing wins, right? I see this a lot. So this comes from being in agencies. This comes from sales teams, right? Where marketing's busting their butt. They're generating the leads, but sales isn't closing, or sales is saying like, hey, marketing keeps giving me garbage leads. They don't understand us. They're not saying the right things in our marketing. They're not calling in the right people. And it's kind of like this constant finger pointing between sales and marketing. And I see this again in agency land. I see this inside of sales organizations. I see this like constant finger pointing. But the best way, or the easiest way to solve that problem, is to tie their goals together. The only way you both win is if you both win, right? So again, if you're generating leads but nobody's closing, you don't win as marketing department, right? But again, if you're the sales department and you're closing, but it's because you're generating your own leads, you don't win as marketing department, and vice versa. So really determining, again, what are those two things and how do we marry them together? How do we cohesively say, okay, marketing is working, is sales working? We have to tie those goals together, and we have to tie that performance together, right? And then the third thing is making sure we have the right people in the right seat. So again, are you putting too much pressure on your marketing team to convert? Are you putting too much pressure on your sales team to generate leads? And if you are, then again, you're out of alignment. So back to my first bullet point. So right person in the right seat. Are we hiring the right person to do the right thing? Are we hiring a copywriter and expecting it to be this magic wand that all of a sudden is going to fill the salesperson's calendar? But again, does the salesperson want to take the calls if you're the one taking the calls, etc.? Right? So right people in the right seat is going to be such a big difference in making sure, again, but this comes from having an alignment on strategy, the goals tied together, and then knowing who are the humans that I need to execute on this. Because again, as small businesses, we have a tendency to want to hire one person and have that person be a unicorn, right? I posted this on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, and we just got a shit ton of engagement where I was like, your VA is not a marketer, right? To hire a virtual assistant whose job is to be an administrative assistant, and then expect them to be able to create content and to create images and to generate leads and literally produce the visual representation of your business without having that skill set, wrong person, wrong seat, right? But what we want, because we're trying to be cost efficient, is we want a unicorn. We want somebody who can do all of it. And this search for this unicorn, I truly believe, is keeping so many companies small and stuck and actually wasting money, because it doesn't matter that it's cheaper if it's not getting the result. Right? If you want a sales department that produces sales and a marketing department that produces leads, but you want one person to be able to do all that, but the person who's killing it in marketing isn't great at sales, and vice versa. Again, you have the wrong people in the right seat. So while it might be cheaper, you might be saving money on headcount, you're not getting the desired result. It doesn't work. right? And I know that this sounds so simple, but I see it over and over and over again where it's like, well, I have a social media manager and she also sometimes writes my emails and she sometimes writes my sales pages and she sometimes does this and she sometimes does that. And it's like, is that her skill set? Is that in her wheelhouse? Is she trained to do that? Is that, you know, is that effective? And most of the time, the answer is no, because you have hired an assistant, right? Somebody whose job is to take orders, and then you have put them in a strategic role, right? And I'm not knocking virtual assistants. I fucking love assistants. I think it's one of the most important jobs. I think having an assistant who can be out in front of you and see it out in front of you is one of the most valuable people you can hire inside of your company. So please don't misunderstand me saying that your virtual assistant is not a marketer is knocking the virtual assistant, right? That's not it. I'm saying that you are asking somebody to do 12 jobs who doesn't have those 12 different skill sets. And then you're frustrated that you're not getting the result that you want. And I also see it on the opposite side, right? I see people who are excellent in the DMs. They're excellent in conversation. They're so good at it, but they're not great at creating content. But then you're asking them to create content, but that's not their skill set, right? So they're taking time away from their empowered skill set, which is getting into the DMs, getting into conversations, booking sales conversations, really doing the social selling. And you're asking them to do something that they're not good at. And so then you're frustrated. So right people, right seats, and understanding the differences in the skill sets that you need to be successful in your marketing and to be successful in your sales is one of the most important things that you do, right? So how do we get it to all work together? The first things first, like I said, alignment on the strategy. And when we're aligning the strategy, we're figuring out who are the people that we need. If the strategy is, okay, cool, I'm going to continue to launch or do webinars. Awesome. I love that strategy for you. Who are the players involved in that? Right? Like what are all the different parts and pieces? Who are all the different humans that they need? Right? And do you have the right people in the right seats? Or are you asking one person to be able to manage that entire process who doesn't have that skill set, right? So first we have to align on strategy, then we have to tie the goals together. Does the strategy lead to sales? And then we need to put the right people in the right seats. And when we do that, we are going to instantly see an increase of qualified leads. We're going to see an increase of conversions, and we're going to see a more cohesive environment operating between sales and marketing, right? And so that's really what I wanted to share with you today is, are those things aligned in your business? Because I do truly, truly think that this is one of the biggest things holding us back as small business owners. And we hide behind the guise of budget, right? We hide behind, it is not inexpensive to hire all these different people. And I know, right? But if you are hiring somebody to do a job that they are not qualified to do, it doesn't matter that it's cheaper. It doesn't matter that you're spending less, because ultimately sales and marketing is driven by results, right? The metric for success in sales and marketing is money in the bank. And so if you're saving money, but not by paying less or putting different people in the wrong seats, but you're not actually putting more money in the bank, are you saving money? No, the answer is no. So really thinking about, what is my marketing strategy and what is my sales strategy? So that is what I'm going to tell you as we go into 2024, as we wrap up 2023, as we start thinking about, did we hit our goals? Did we not hit our goals? Are we where we want to be as business? Are we where we want to be in revenue? Are we where we want to be in clients enrolled? Are we where we want to be in these things? Is making sure that your sales and marketing goals are separate, right? What is the marketing goals and what are the sales goals, and how do we set them separately and then tie them together so that we can put the right people in the right seats? So that is what I have for you today, right? Sales and marketing, two different jobs, marathon, sprint, right? Marathon, sprint. So what is the strategy? How do we tie the goals together? And then how do we make sure that we put the right people in the right seats so that we can perform accordingly? If you are overwhelmed by this whole concept of like, holy shit, Ryan, you're right, I have the wrong people in the wrong seats, and that's why I'm not getting the result that I want, then I want you to reach out to me, because this is literally what we do as an agency, right? We tie these two things together. We drive both marketing and sales for companies, right? Without you having to have 87 different people to manage to get the job done, right? Because we already have the people, we have the marketers, right? We have the lead gen team. We have the systems and the processes and everything already done, and we can plug it directly into your business for you so that you don't have to go out and try to find all these people. You don't have to figure out who to put the right butt in the right seat, because again, it's costing you money if you have the wrong people in the wrong seat, but you don't even have to worry about that. You can partner with us and we'll set it all up for you. So thank you so much for being here. We'll see you guys next week. And I'm excited to hear how you put together your different strategies between sales and marketing. Talk soon.